Come Lately show. This is Stefan, your patriot come lately, the voice of the Second American Revolution. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever or wherever you are listening. As someone who came to America to escape from the socialist nightmare, I am using this show to shake America awake. Join me in the next hour for constitutional conservative news and views, as well as the occasional guest. We have to rebuild that shining city on the hill by taking this great country back to the principles set forth by the founders.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, just like the Founding Fathers, and very proud of it. Glad to see you here. And hopefully those of you that are listening live will be able to join us in the chat room. I see Paul and Rex have already arrived. Good evening. Two very regular listeners there. Anybody else that's listening live, just go to the little speech button in your Spreaker box there, click on that and join us in the chat room. For those of you that are not in the chat room, listening to one of the many channels that rebroadcast this show, which includes Red State Talk Radio, 405 Radio out on the left coast there, please, obviously you can't participate in the chat room, but you can email me at stefan@patriotcomelately.us or go to my website www.patriotcomelately.us and click on the contact button, send me a message. I love to hear from my listeners. And like I said, for those of you that are live and participate in the chat room, I will be popping in there every so often. I tend to jump in as much as possible during the commercial breaks, have a quick chat with you, but it's also interesting to watch the chat going on in the room. And then I started handling some of the reasons why it might not be such a good idea as many of the people, and primarily Republicans, are painting this. I think one of the major reasons is that it gives King Barry a hell of a lot of power, and he has so missed his power to date. Why would we give him even more? Now, some of the people say, well, no, actually, it doesn't give him power. It actually reins him in. Box with me, and hopefully should not have any problems broadcasting the show live from wherever I am at whatever time I am. I know that in about 3 weeks' time I will be in Milwaukee. Regular listeners will know that I was there a couple of years ago around the time of the Scott Walker recall election. I was there the night that he won his re-election in that recall. And I'll be going back there, but we'll talk about that when that show comes up. So, other topics, and I'm going to group them under the moniker of my weekly summary. Oh, and it sounds like, I'm just looking in the chat room there. Are you still having audio cut out there, folks? Still having problems? I'm hoping that it's not the network. I'm getting fed up with this hotel well, only a few more weeks and things should be better. Network was a lot better here recently, but it seems to have gone downhill again. So, folks in the chat room, let me know if it's still a problem, because otherwise I'm going to have to go back and re-record stuff. Okay, topics for today. The first one, I want to go back to something that I was talking about last week, the big OPM cyber breach, right, at the basically at the HR department for all of the federal workers that we talked about last week, and I mentioned was discovered by chance because a private company was doing a demo of some security software. However, since then, the Office of Personnel and Management has actually admitted now that the breach could be even worse than we thought, and that it could impact as many as 30 million federal workers. Now, folks, what I will say there, and this is my commentary part. So here we have all this information, highly sensitive information, and I talked about it last week as well. It isn't just names, social security numbers and other things, but also a lot of the security clearances, the applications for security clearances, where they have a huge number of pages with all sorts of very sensitive information being stored. That was also part of this cyber breach. But this is being done by the regime that, just to take a single example, wants to take and store and control all of the medical records of all Americans. And they can't even look after the personnel and security records of their own people, let alone all of America. I mean, it is just absolutely unbelievable that we even allow this to be discussed. And if you think about it, it's OPM breach, the fact they can't even set up a website. They've spent how many billions of dollars trying to set up this website, and it actually still doesn't work 100%. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. And Donald Trump is right. He's been he started his campaign since he got in, and one of the main things has been talking about this Obamacare mistake of a website, and it's just unbelievable that we allow this sort of thing to go on and just don't do anything about it. And what I think is so sad is that people who should know better, who think they know so much about everything, yes, the elitists in Washington, but still let these sort of things go through under their noses and pay absolutely no attention to them. So, folks, we need to get someone different into the White House, and we need to get different people into Washington as well. And it starts at the top. So people say, oh, well, Trump's a clown. In some ways he is. He's very brash. Don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything any candidate says. But he's got a number of big positives, and he's definitely stirring things up. And I think apart from anything else, whether or not he makes it as a candidate, he is definitely going to make whoever ends up our candidate a lot better. But having said that, did you see in New Hampshire, Mr. Trump is actually in second place behind Jeb Bush? The bad news is second place behind Jeb Bush. Good news is, yes, we have someone who could probably have a positive impact on the United States, on the economy, and on our future, is in second place. Nobody would have expected that. Other places, there was another vote, another poll earlier in the week somewhere else. I'm not sure whether it was national or whether it was Iowa or whatever. He wasn't even in the top 10. So, who knows what's going to happen, but it's interesting to see that he's there. We've got more people jumping into the race. Bobby Jindal apparently is going to jump in. Kasich is getting ready. If he had, he jumped in. I mean, just tons of people. And as I've said before, I think having a lot of people is going to be good. It means that the character assassinations are going to be more difficult to do. It means that there's not going to be tons of money on one candidate. And they all say, well, Jeb Bush is sucking a lot of the money, a lot of the big money away. But I think he's not going to get as much as he would like, because there's going to be a lot of other people who are going to say, we are going to give other people a chance. And quick hello to Mary, who's also joined us in the chat room. Nice to see you as well, Mary. So we've got our little trio of regular listeners there. And I think it's time to go on and talk about our next topic. And our next topic in the weekly summary is talking about the fact of the reaction to what happened in Charleston. Now, of course, this was really something really terrible, where this nutcase went in and killed 9 black people in a purely racially motivated murder. I mean, that is very obvious. The left have jumped all over this for gun control. Hillier has started jumping on it and has started bringing racial aspects into her campaign speeches, but we should have expected that, because she's just going to be Obama, and probably Obama on steroids. And no, not Obama on estrogen. The current Obama might be on estrogen, looking at rhetoric and going down the racial division side of things, which is absolutely disgusting, but okay, all the best of luck to her. But Charleston showed us how we should do it. But before we talk about Charleston, yes, it's that time. It's time for one of those nasty commercial breaks. But as I like to remind my listeners, if you need any of these services, please use the 800 numbers in these commercials, because by doing so you help support the show. These commercials are not paid for in advance. They're paid for when people call the numbers. I'll be back right after this break.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're back after those messages. And I was just going to be talking to you about what happened in Charleston. Well, let's look at this. Charleston, right? 9 blacks got killed by a white person. You'd think, right, we only had 1 killed in Ferguson. We only had 1 black killed by a white person in, well, actually there it was white and black that killed him, 6 of them. So 6 against 1. And look at all the mayhem that went on. So you think Charleston, I mean, that's the South, that's really going to be divided. But nothing happened. The people came together. The people grieved together. The people supported each other. So this idea that the South is a hotbed of racial hatred doesn't seem right. So unbelievable. So of course the race baiters, of course, headed on down there, and you know what happened? The people of Charleston basically told them to take a hike out of Charleston. Specifically, and Sharpton went down there, but specifically there's a new name on the horizon. Somebody called DeRay McKesson, who's been in Ferguson, Baltimore, McKinney, Texas. Don't forget McKinney with the police there. So he's arrived in Charleston, and all of a sudden there was a Go Home DeRay hashtag, which trended in Twitter, trended highly. And trended means you're going to be up in the top 10, top 20 of the hashtags there, and it shot up the charts in Twitter. And this is people of Charleston saying, DeRay, get lost. Of course, nobody's bothered to really find out how DeRay can visit all these places. He was asked recently on, I think, MSNBC, as if they're really going to dig deep, and he said, well, I'm using my savings to do that. Yeah, right. Really think so? I mean, we all know these liberals, these regressives, can never tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so I think if you do start digging somewhere along the money trail, it will end up at a spooky dude. Yes, George Soros' name will come up again. But anyway, he went there, tried to stir up hate and divisiveness, and they wouldn't have it. No riots, no fights, no black on white protests, just a true mixture of people, blacks and whites, mourning together, showing support, not protesting, not rioting, but just showing support for everyone. And I think that's great. Nice to see something good happening now and again. Okay, let's go on. Another topic. And another topic. Unfortunately, we have yet again more proof that the regime and King Barry have lied again. Proven to have lied again. So you may remember a while back when Jonathan Gruber was discovered to have called the American public idiots on videos, and basically a number of bad things. And so what happened? King Barry, he was asked about Gruber's off-script remarks, these videos. He described Gruber as some advisor who never worked on our staff and expressed an opinion I completely disagree with. Well, like I said, guess what? King Barry's lips were moving, therefore he was lying. Because emails have come to light that show that the Obama administration paid him nearly $400,000 as a consultant on Obamacare's design, especially its new layer of federal health insurance regulation. Now, Gruber tried to avoid disclosing this conflict. There are even emails where he asked the White House in help in doing that, and Democratic officials did that as well. In fact, and here the regressives lie again, a senator, Mike Enzi, a Republican from Wyoming, specifically asked the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for a list of all of its paid consultants. And guess what? Gruber's name was mysteriously omitted from that list. Can you believe that? That they really are twisting the truth so much. Now, why is this such a big thing that Gruber was or was not central? Well, obviously the fact that he talked about the stupidity of the American voter, that was one thing, showing how elitist, how they look down upon us people. However, we have even more proof now on videos that show footage of Gruber observing that the Affordable Care Act does not allow insurance subsidies to flow through Obamacare's federal insurance program. And that is the crux of the King versus Burwell case that is in front of the Supreme Court right now. He specifically said, what's important to remember politically about Obamacare is if you're a state and you don't set up an exchange, that means your citizens don't get their tax credits. But your citizens still pay the taxes that support this bill. So you're essentially saying to your citizens, you're going to pay all the taxes to help all the other states in the country. I hope that's a blatant enough political reality that states will get their act together and realize there are billions of dollars at stake here in setting up these exchanges. But once again, the politics can get ugly around this. Well, that was a very good statement, that last phrase, because that's exactly what's happened, and that's the position taken by the challengers to the Obama administration in the King versus Burwell case. The Supreme Court is supposed to be deciding that shortly, and based on what Gruber is saying, in some ways they don't even have a choice. But there's also, I've found a nugget of useful information that will also show that if they decide the other way, then they have been got at. They have been, as we say in the UK, nobbled. They have had, somebody has put pressure on them, and they have not acted in the interests of the country. They have acted to protect themselves. And so we'll see, but that's and of course, if the Supreme Court does rule for the challengers to the Obama administration, that is going to be a huge hit to Obamacare, because it means the 30-odd states that do not have exchanges, the people there will not get the subsidies. They will have to pay the full amount. And with Obamacare premiums going up by double digits in the coming year, this is going to be a political disaster for His Highness. Now, I said there was another nugget which has come out of some of the reports that I've been reading about that, and here it is, because there is very clear wording on the Affordable Care Act, or as I like to call it, the Unaffordable Care Act, because that's what it's going to turn out to be. The law authorizes, and here I will quote, taxpayer-funded premium assistance only for individuals enrolled through an exchange established by the state under Section 1311 of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Now, the argument of the regime is that, well, when they said established by the state, they meant it could be the state, in other words, America, or it could mean a state. However, the Act specifically says established by the state under Section 1311 of the Affordable Care Act. So now it narrows it down. Well, guess what? Section 1311 is the portion of the law devoted to state-based exchanges. The federally run exchanges fall under Section 1321. So the legal description there, right, is saying, think about it, folks. This is of critical importance, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm not in the Supreme Court. But if the law says taxpayer-funded premium assistance only for individuals enrolled through an exchange established by the state under Section 1311, see, if it just said established by the state, you could even argue that what the regime is arguing is correct, even though we know it's not what was intended. But now it's saying by the state under Section 1311, it is specifically referring to the state-based exchanges. In other words, if you don't have a state-based exchange, you cannot have taxpayer-funded premium assistance for the individuals that enroll through the federally run exchanges. Folks, this is really going to blow Obamacare out of the water. If the Supreme Court, I can't see them ruling any other way. I mean, they can say, well, that's not the intent. That's not their prerogative. The intent is set by Congress, and the intent there is very clear. And Gruber actually says that that was the intent. They wanted to force people to set up the exchanges by withholding taxpayer money from those states that did not set up the exchanges. It was intended. And now that they have this unintended consequence, they're trying to scramble back. Folks, this is really, like I said, it's going to blow Obamacare out of the water because, what is it, 30 states or 25 states that don't have state exchanges? Everybody who's registered there is going to have to pay in full. They will not get any subsidies. They're not going to be able to afford it. People are going to go ballistic, and so they should, because this law is and remains an abomination. Okay, folks, I see that the clock is ticking and it's time for the next commercial. And just before we get into TPP, maybe also a little bit of music after the commercial break. But let's start with the commercial break.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And we're back. We're into the second half of the show. I'm going to be talking about the second part of TPP, TPA, FTA, TAA, all those acronyms. Forget it. TiSA, TTIP, bunch of things going on. But before we do that, a little bit of entertainment. And what I'd like to do, let's have a little bit of country music today to celebrate. To celebrate today, why not?
Don't want a new Republic of America. You'll have to get in line to get your handout. Promises broken to Americans. While you sleep away your life, you lose your freedoms. Well, I never believed that a country as great as the USA could fade away. Liberty bells ringing this here to warn us. But I gotta keep holding on to the dream that we'll be okay, continue to be free. Our forefathers' words will reach deaf ears all around us. You better stand up, speak out right now before you lose your rights. Sitting on the fence won't help, come out and join the fight. Many died for your liberties, we can't let them die in vain. So I say pack up your bags and join us on the freedom train. The freedom train, the freedom train. Listen up and Washington, with voices mighty loud will make you hear us. More than 200 years of independence. Your only job right now is to represent us. Well, I know in my heart they're trying to change the USA, no matter what they say. Campaign promises spoken have all been broken. While they mesmerize us with the front door speeches, the back door's open for special interests. Well, greedy politicians won't make it in the next election. You better stand up, speak out right now before you lose your rights. Sitting on the fence won't help, come out and join the fight. Many died for your liberties, we can't let them die in vain. So I say pack up your bags and join us on the freedom train. The freedom train, the freedom train. So what do we do now that our backs are up against the wall? Who's gonna stand and fight for your rights? Right and say pack up your bags and join us. Pack up your bags and join us. Pack up your bags and join us on the freedom train. The freedom train. The freedom train.
Okay, folks, a little bit of country music there to kind of set the mood, because we're going to get into some pretty serious stuff. But I did think there's one little comment that I want to make. So, and just one little leftover from the commentary, and it concerns again dear leader who last week decided to take his rather expensive little runabout, Air Force One, and head out to California to go and guess what? Yes. Exactly. Play a little bit of golf. Now, why do I want to have a little bit of commentary on that? Because, of course, we know in California right now they're facing a drought, kind of a self-imposed drought, because apparently 50% of the water that falls on California runs off into the sea, because they're not allowed to collect it because of a few of these, 1 or 2 inch long delta smelt fish. And, the fact that this fish needs to be protected, it's a protected species because there aren't very many of them, and so it may go extinct if we don't give it all this water. And yet, on the other hand, people are suffering, farmers are losing their jobs, people across America are having to pay more for their food just because of a tiny little fish. The usual thing, but it's these enviro-Nazis that are forcing this upon us. But let's think about it. So, dear leader goes off to California to play on a golf course which has beautifully manicured green fairways and greens, right? Beautiful green grass, which is, yes, you guessed it, watered. And what kind of message is he sending to America when that state is suffering from this water shortage by going to somewhere where they're using a lot of water when others really need it? Yeah, to me, the message that he's sending is just that he doesn't give a rat's ass about the rest of us. We're beneath him. He is the leader, and he can do whatever he likes, and he will do it. He will rub it in our face. Anyway, TPP, TPA, I started talking about it last week, and I talked about some of the good things. My congressman in Georgia, unfortunately, Rob Woodall, is in favor of it, has voted in favor of it. I am not happy about that. But he mentioned all the good things. He says it supposedly puts padlocks on King Barry's ability to negotiate any kind of trade agreements. And there's a lot of things going on. I mentioned last week, and for listeners who didn't hear last week, just a very brief introduction, because you hear TPA, TPP, TAA, etc. So basically what it is, TPA, Trade Promotion Authority, this gives the president the authority to negotiate trade promotions, any kind of free trade agreement, FTA, another acronym, and supposedly put some parameters around what he has to put into these agreements. Now, we all know how much King Barry follows the law, so, will he do that? We don't know. But supposedly he's got to put in protection for American intellectual property rights, so, things like software, protecting that, support for American labor, environmental standards, making sure that these countries that we trade with are not manipulating the currency, and a commitment to tear down state-owned enterprises that unfairly compete with American private businesses and workers. And anyway, there's a bunch of things supposedly in there. And if he doesn't follow that, should the president violate these specific policy riders, Congress reserves the right to take away TPA and also to vote against any free trade agreements. And part of TPA says that any agreement that the president, and then right now it is King Barry, but it would also apply to any future president, anything that he negotiates has to be brought back. It has to be published for open discussion amongst all Americans for 60 days, and then subject to an up or down vote. Now, it is an up or down vote. No amendments will be, and that's part of the thing that's being negotiated in, no amendments will be possible. Now, the arguments are, and I can understand that, the arguments are that if the regime, whoever the regime is at the time, but of course this regime who we don't trust anyway, but if they've been negotiating for a long while, they can't then come back to Congress and have the agreement changed by Congress and have to go back kind of cap in hand to the people with whom they negotiate and said, well, we agreed this with you, but now Congress tells me I have to do this. So on the face of it, TPA sounds like a good idea. You tell the president what has to be in there, and then you let him go off and do the negotiation in secret, whatever. Come back with something, show us what it is, make sure we can look at it for 60 days so we, the people, have an opportunity to express our opinion to our representatives in Washington, as if they ever listen. That's one of the negatives about it, of course. And then it goes for an up or down vote. That sounds kind of good. But so let's look at one or two negatives about the TPA itself. One of the things apparently that's getting negotiated into that is that when it comes for this up and down vote, every lawmaker will only have something like 90 seconds to discuss everything. So not only are they not going to have the ability to make any changes, they're not even going to be able to discuss it very much. Is that right before we have an up or down vote? I think we should have plenty of discussion. The discussion shouldn't be limited. The ability to make changes, yes, but discussion shouldn't be limited. Of course, the reason they're doing that is to prevent filibusters, etc. But okay, that's all part of the game, folks, and they shouldn't be limiting that. So that's another good reason why TPA and then TPP itself is a whole different story, but why we need to watch out for this. So TPA sounds good, but there's a few things that are bad about it, and I'm going to talk about the bad things in just a moment. But right now, it's time for another commercial.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry. and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508 for Always Best Care. 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Okay, we're into the last segment of the show. Time's rushing by, and we're still talking about TPP, TPA, FTA. So last week I also mentioned that the TPP has a very strange provision which basically allows companies which feel that their profits have been impacted by laws in one of the signatories of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, to take that country to a special court, which is not in the country, it's outside, so you're taking away sovereignty, and they can sue the government for the profits that they've lost because some law has made their business less profitable. So, for example, if somebody's producing some chemical that's used in gasoline and then we decide it's a harmful chemical, they can sue America and get millions, maybe even billions of dollars in lost profits paid back. And guess who has to pay that? The taxpayers. And is that adjudicated by American courts? No. Today they would have to come to America and run it through an American court. But then it's going to be done by high-powered lawyers, not even judges, who one day represent these companies and the next day are sitting in adjudication of these disputes. Folks, so that's one reason why TPP is not a good idea. Another one is, as part of this whole Obama trade package, there are a number of acts. There's also the Trade in Services Agreement. Now, this is also another one of these secret agreements that is going on, and it will massively expand Kim Barry's immigration authority. There are 10 pages in this agreement that allow visas, etc., to be determined by the administration and not to be determined by Congress. Now, that's in the Constitution. It says Congress is responsible for immigration issues, and yet the TiSA would take it away. But this is all secret, so nobody knows for sure, but these things are leaking out. Some things have reached WikiLeaks and things like that. And folks, what part of the big thing for me is, if it's all so secret, right? Things that happen in secrecy normally are not good. So why is it all happening in secrecy? Steve King has raised issues about the immigration provisions, and the establishment Republicans have offered to put to include something in future legislation, but not the current TPA. So that would allow this immigration provisions to go forward in the TPP, and the future legislation would have to have something to limit the immigration provisions, which means it could be that amendment could be rejected in the future, and even if the Senate does pass it, Obama could veto it. So basically, it ain't going to happen. So it's just a sop that Paul Ryan and the other establishment GOP folks are giving to Steve King, basically to shut him up. Now, is TPP a good idea or not? Well, a lot of it is very similar to NAFTA. Have we had good experiences with NAFTA? All those jobs that moved away from America to Mexico, we're going to have more jobs moving to Asia than are already there? Somehow, I don't think so. So it's a 30-chapter document, TPP, of which 5 chapters talk about trade and the other 25 talk about a lot of other things. And the immigration is there, lots of other things. And folks, this is not a good thing. It's being done in secrecy. It isn't all about trade. There's so many other things being included in there that we're just signing away our sovereignty to this thing. All it is, this is a play by the one world government, folks, right? George Soros, that's one of his big drivers. He wants this one world government, and of course he has Barry in his back pocket. So of course this is being pushed by Barry, and of course the establishment GOP, even though they probably don't like George Soros, he's funneling millions of dollars in their direction, and they're going to bow down and say, yes, George, please, George, whatever you want, George. Folks, we are losing our sovereignty. We are signing away things, and we need to keep calling our legislatures in DC. Please do it. Please fax them, email them. Writing letters doesn't work because it takes about 6 weeks for it to go through the anthrax checks. We just need to keep going and just tell them we don't want this. TPP is bad. TPP, TPA, like I said, sounds like it could be good, but this president just ignores the law anyway, so I don't see its value. TPP is a much bigger thing. What Obama's trying to do is just create the equivalent of the European Union in the Pacific, and that will be part of his legacy. Well, let's not give him a legacy, because he does not deserve a legacy. And if you agree with me, please do something about it. Okay, folks, I see we are slowly getting to the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to remind you, you can email me at stephan@patrickcomelately.us if you've got comments or questions. You can listen to the show, and please, if you're listening live, pass all this information on to your friends. If you're listening on some of the rebroadcasts, also pass it on to your friends. Red State Talk Radio, remember they have 2 streams now, Studio A and Studio B. My show goes out 4 times a week, twice on one, twice on the other. Go to redstatetalkradio.com to check out the schedule. Like I said, please share it with all your friends. We need to get these messages out. This is an education show. I'm trying to tell people what's going on. Some of it's available. Some of it people just don't have the time to research. I do the research for you. Please spread the message. Also, 405 Radio. I think it's called 405media.com is the actual site. That is also streaming my show on a regular basis, and you can also pick up the shows there. Archives.patrickcomelately as well for recordings, and of course right here at radio.patrickcomelately.us. You can also stream the show live. So folks, I see it's time for the music, and thanks for coming. Please come next week. It's TTFN. Ta-ta for now. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Patrick Come Lately Show. Please take what you have learned and share it with friends and family. Better still, tell them about the show so they can listen too. Remember to support the advertisers on the show. It helps keep this show on the air, and I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to joining you on the next show. Until then, keep spreading our message. Goodbye, and God bless America.